Hi everybody, it's Mariette here, and we are about to start the webinar, Women in Business, Challenges and Solutions. I'm very excited you want to spend the next hour with me when we talk about women in business, and the challenge of being a happy woman in business. And of course, talking about solutions to make that happiness a reality. I'm excited because I know I have things to share with you that will help you to face your challenges and to change them. Change from a challenge to a triumph, going from an issue to a remedy, or from a glitch to an antidote. Sounds good to me, and I hope it sounds good to you. I choose to focus this webinar on women because it seems it is mostly women who experience their busy life as a challenge. Is it just because we acknowledge the challenge and maybe others walk away from it? There never seems to be enough time or energy to fully enjoy every aspect of our jobs and our lives outside the job. There's a generic feeling of dissatisfaction, even incompetence, around not performing to the best of our abilities. Is that just mindset? Is there more to it? When we are overwhelmed, we can't see the wood for the trees, and it's difficult to take action, let alone the right action. During this webinar, I will help you to get clarity and cut through that vagueness, that darkness. When I talk about change, I recognize the power of the detail, as the solutions are usually in the details. Change something that appears to be small and see the impact being mega. An example of this is the success story of Roger Bannister. Roger was an athlete and he aimed to run 1 mile in under 4 minutes. This is in the year 1954. Nobody believed it was possible. People thought you have to die in order to be able to do that. But he knew he could do it. He just did not know how to achieve it. And after a few different ways of trying to get there, he made sorry guys, one minor but essential change. He ran with pacemakers. He had people around him who guided him in the build-up of his race, so he used his energy the most effectively and the most efficiently. And that's the way he achieved his goal. I will do the talking. After all, I am the presenter today, but it doesn't mean you have nothing to do. It's because I will ask you to do certain exercises, and I want you to have a paper and pen ready for that. So you are ready to roll. What I want you to understand between now and when we end, which is in sort of, less than an hour, possibly 45 minutes, is what is your challenge? Let's get precise. Remember, the details are important. Second thing, what gets in the way of you changing it into a triumph? So let's get into the nitty-gritty. How to get the obstacles out of the way. And this is important. What can you do right now to start removing them? I'm very much into action. I'm very much into, come on, let's get on with it. And that's what I want you to go away with after this webinar. And then you have some more knowledge and you have some access to tools, which I will give you later as well, to create each day the way you want it to be. One step at a time, but in the end you will walk that marathon. This webinar is about you, it's not about me, so I'm only saying one thing about myself, is that everything I mention here, all the examples, all the exercises, are all I've done them all, I've practiced myself, so there's no porcupines or theory that is not backed up by evidence. And I know what I'm talking about. And I know that if it works for you, why wouldn't it work for you? So be ready and let's get started. As I said, the webinar is about you, and in order to sort of really tailor it to what is going on for you, I've sent you the questionnaire. in an email. Here is a little reminder of that. So the questions were, what is your biggest challenge each day? And how do you feel around it? You didn't change it yet, because otherwise you would have done that. So what do you think are the reasons you can't change? And then I wanted to know what sort of type of people I have here in this webinar. So that's where this question came from. How would you describe yourself? And then, what is the one thing you would like to get out of this lunch break with me? Well, thank you all for sending back your answers. It's quite shocking, actually. As challenges, what came up, that's not a surprise, by the way, that's the no time. But the tiredness, feeling no control, feeling stuck, low, taken for granted, emotions like anger, frustration, doubting yourself, desperation, the idea of you can't change because it feels as if you have no power. Things are the way they are. I have no choice, a little bit like that. I'm very pleased with that answer because we're definitely going to address that. And when it comes to how would you describe yourself? Hey, there are lots of strong-willed people here in this webinar. Passionate, or used to be passionate, perfectionist, and most of you very bubbly, but feeling deflated at the moment. So what I did, getting all these different sort of answers together, I made it into 5 different categories I'm going to talk about. Time is the first one. Energy levels, emotions, very important. You, who are you? How can you get in the way of what you want to achieve? And some skills. In order to make changes, it is important to sort of develop some skills and have some skills. I was talking earlier about the power of details. Let me explain this with a metaphor. At the moment, there is a cloud hanging over you. A dark, threatening cloud. What can you do with a cloud? Can you blow it away? Can you cut it into pieces? Can you wrap it up? Nah, there's nothing you can do with a cloud. The only thing that happens is the cloud will get darker and heavier over time. But I'm going to show you what makes your cloud dark, what is going on inside, and what is happening under the surface. It's a little bit like birds are hiding in the cloud and they're doing whatever they are doing. And their actions make the cloud full of heaviness and darkness. But once you can see the different birds, the different elements that darken the cloud, you can focus on one element, one bird at a time. You feed it, you train it to behave it differently, and ultimately you prepare it to leave the cloud. Once all the birds have left, the cloud becomes fluffy and light, and it will gently find its way on the movement of the wind, and it allows the sun to shine on you. Isn't that lovely? I hope this makes sense to you all, and let's get started. Time. Time is free of charge, priceless. You can't own it, but you can give it. You can't keep it, so you have to spend it. Everybody gets the same amount, and once you've lost it, you can never get it back. Precious, precious time. Why does it seem that you have never enough, while others have it? Time management has nothing to do with time. It has to do with activities, energy, and your perception. You only have lack of time if you have too much activities. Do less, you've got plenty of it. One of the biggest mistakes that most people make is they overestimate the available time and underestimate the time that's needed. In other words, often we think we have way more time than we actually have. Is your working day 8 hours? Does that mean you can work 8 hours? Or does it mean you might have 6 hours for working? Because you need a toilet break, you need to go for a coffee, a sandwich, maybe talk to a colleague or a friend, organize your drawer, empty the bin. It's not only what we think that we think we have more time available than we have, but we also think that activities take less time than they actually do. I always love it when I mention that I go to the Netherlands. I'm Dutch, so I pop over regularly. And people's reaction is, oh, it's so close by. It's only a 40 minutes flight. Yeah, right. Only 40 minutes in the air. But I have to pack, I have to travel to the airport, check in, wait, sit in the plane for 1.5 hours. 40 minutes of that is that we are actually flying. And then I have to find my way through passport control on the other end, my bag pickup, find a train or a taxi, and then I sort of travel to my destination. So a concept of a 40-minute flight turns into a reality journey of over 4 hours. Can you see how the perception affects planning? Another mistake most people make is that we don't allow for unexpected events. Planning is usually based on the perfect situation, and of course it's bound to not work out. Just a delayed train, or a dog that doesn't come back straight away after the walk, an unexpected phone call or a broken dishwasher. These are all things that happen to normal people, and they're all part of normal life. If we plan our days as if these things don't happen, then we set ourselves up for disappointment. I always say, life gets in the way of even the best planned day. And if we allow that to happen, so if we allow life to get in the way, because we can't avoid it anyway, we can face those events with less frustration and we can just get on with it without being too upset, because we know we have some time to deal with it. The last common mistake is incomplete planning. What I mean by that is that we plan an event, like we plan a meeting, but we don't plan the preparation. We don't plan the follow-up, and very often we don't plan the traveling as well. So all of a sudden, a 1-hour meeting changes into a 2-hour activity. The preparation and the follow-up. And if that last hour is not planned for, but it still takes place, where does that come from? Again, it's similar to my trip to Holland. There is more to it than we at first consider. Now, let's do an exercise. Get your pen and paper in front of you and look back at your planning for yesterday. Check how it worked out. Did you stick to it? How much underestimation, overestimation did take place? How much time did you realistically have yesterday? Sometimes we say, oh, I've got a whole day. Well, actually, I also have to go to the dry cleaners and I also have to do this and that and the other. Then actually it turns out maybe they have only half a day. Have a look. How big is the gap between your planning and the reality? And if you then look at your planning for today, can you make it a little bit more realistic? Life gets in the way of even the best planned day. I like that one. Here we go, my tips for you. So write them down. Number 1 is be realistic. There's no point in being optimistic, as this will cause a lot of unhelpful energy. You'll get frustrated, you'll beat yourself up, you'll feel incompetent. Then, as a result of that, you'll lose confidence. This can have a big impact on your well-being. And for instance, one of the things I never do is planning or committing to my networking meetings. Building my business means I do quite a lot of networking, but instead of really sort of putting that upfront in the diary and making a commitment, I decide that much closer to the day. Why do I do that? Well, if I have committed, I feel I have to go. But if I then have a project, or maybe a child that needs attention, or I'm not feeling well myself, it's a big burden to have that commitment and to get back on it. It's much easier for me to decide in the moment that I want to go because I have the time, or that I can't go. It's a reality check when it matters. Okay, my second tip is don't plan back to back. And again, it's not only because that way you have a little bit of extra time for things that are unexpected, but you need time to take a breather. You need to process what happened, or you need to refuel. This helps when meetings run over as well, or clients stay a bit later, then you have that bit of extra time. You don't have to rush from one thing in another. But remember, we are human beings, and most of us are focused on the doing. We need some space to be. So don't plan back to back. That's a really helpful tool to create some space for you. And allow every day at least 1 hour of open time. That doesn't mean it's wasted time, but it can be used for admin, for emails, for clearing. Having space gives you a choice of how to use that time. And that has a great impact on efficiency, because you choose to do what feels right at that moment, which means you're in the right frame of mind, which means it takes less energy, which means it all has a very positive and effective use of your time. Can you see how that all is interconnected and how that works? Time is also energy. And I really would like to talk about multitasking, because that's one of these dangerous ideas. Women are really good at multitasking. Women get all these things done. They're better at it than men. It is, but it doesn't mean that multitasking means that you do two things at the same time. It means your brain swaps from one thing to another, and backwards and forwards, and coming and going. So multitasking might seem to create time, but it takes so much energy that we need time to calm down from it. So it's not the most efficient use of our energy. Concentration span of adults is about 20 minutes. So how long have I been going on here actually? Nearly 20 minutes, so it's nearly time for a break. But you know, a research project in Tennessee showed as well that if you have a break after 20 minutes, it's easy to pick up the concentration for another 20 minutes. So the implications are to never do anything for longer than that time. Another research has shown that if we are disturbed in our concentration, so not by choice, but via a phone call or an email, a ping email, it takes about 12 minutes to get back to that same level of concentration. So concentration is really something to cherish and to be careful about. Feeling the pressure of time eats a lot of energy, and it has an impact on body and mind. Not only that, I recently did some research to discover that different activities affect our stress levels in different ways. And how brilliant is that? By alternating activities, we can manage our stress levels. So a phone call with an upset customer can be quite stressful. If you plan that phone call, it's important to choose the next activity that's more calming, such as reading a report or responding to a positive letter from a happy client. Have you ever thought about that? Time for the next exercise. How are you dealing with time and energy? Get your paper in front of you and just make a list of the disturbances that you regularly experience, induced by others or by yourself. I'm thinking of receiving phone calls, but also checking emails, or quickly make a phone call yourself because you had that thought about something that needed to be arranged. Yeah? Have a look at the chunks you plan. Are they 20 minutes? I'll bet you they're hours. Is there room for change and improvement here? And lastly, what do you do to keep the stress at bay? Could you arrange your activities based on the stress they are causing? My tips for energy. Limit the time per task. So indeed, set a timer for 20 minutes. It helps because then you don't have to be distracted by it. You don't have to keep an eye on the time. And it also means you protect yourself from going overboard and using your energy inefficiently by going on for too long, and then you run on empty. Focus. What can I say? Learn mindfulness techniques. It will help you to stay in the moment and not to be distracted by thoughts that are either in the past or in the future. Since I'm doing my mindfulness meditation each morning, my productivity has shooted up, and I can only contribute it to the fact that I'm more focused than I used to be. Refuel. Yeah, after your 20 minutes, make sure that you do something to get a different type of energy in your system. So that could be some stretches, to drink some water, take some deep breath. It's important to do this consciously so your system is aware that it has a break. It's not something that you do on automatic pilot if you want it to have a good impact. Yeah, so really make the choice to do it, be aware you do it. And then the last thing is with the refueling. Choose your activities wisely. Alternate between the more and less stressful ones. The third aspect of time has everything to do with perception. Time is a mindset. If you think you don't have time, then you will look at the world from that perspective. Change that perspective and good things will happen. Self-talk. Whenever you say you can or whenever you say you can't, you're absolutely right. That's what Henry Ford said, and I think it's such a wise statement. It's true for actions, but it's also when you tell yourself you don't have time, you won't have it. Tell yourself you've got plenty of time of everything that's important, and you are off. The third aspect of the perception is the victim of time. The poor me, I can't do anything about it. Time is a given. I have no power about it. I don't agree with that. We all have the ability to change the amount of time that we have. You have to work it though, and I will explain that, but I will get back to that later. Okay, let's do an exercise. Let's do an exercise about perception. What are your beliefs about time? What do you say about it to yourself, to others? Oh, can't do it. Oh, I'm so busy. Oh, yeah. And how do you create? What do you do at the moment to be creative with your time? Maybe there's nothing yet, but hey. Okay, my tips regarding this area. You have got all the time you need. Embrace that idea and discover that you spend a lot of time on things you don't want to or need to do, because you don't make conscious decisions. If you make conscious decisions on what to do with your time, you have more time. The other thing is to stop being too busy. You know, when big life events happen, like death, for instance, lots of things just carry on, even though not everybody is doing everything. So, you know, there's no point in being too busy. And the last thing is, create 30 minutes each day for you. And I've written an ebook with a strategy, 5-step strategy on how to do that. Just download it from my website. And you know what, if you struggle with it, there's even an offer for half an hour coaching session with me, so I can help you on the road with that. 30 minutes a day, it's an absolute lifesaver. It doesn't need to have a dream, it doesn't need to be a dream. And what we're going to do now, we're going to spend some time refueling, because we've gone over 20 minutes and I know that you need a break. So I would like you to close your eyes and we'll have a break the way I take my breaks. Sit comfortable. Feel your feet in contact with the floor. Observe your natural breathing. In through the nose, out through the nose. Cool air coming in, warm air going out. Observe your shoulders, your facial muscles, and then imagine on your mental screen a dot on the right, a dot on the left, one at the top, one at the bottom. Bring the whole of your awareness to the dot on the right. Then travel to the left, back to the right. Go to the top, travel to the bottom, back to the top, go to the right, to the bottom, to the top, to the left, to the right, to the left, to the top, and then gently let your eyes rest in the middle. Observe your natural breathing. In through the nose, out through the nose. Cool air coming in, warm air going out. Squeeze your facial muscles. Move your head from one side to another and prepare yourself to come back and open your eyes. Now this is one of the ways that you can de-stress and refuel. It takes only 1 minute and it's MOMM, it's Mariette's 1 minute meditation, an award-winning program that you can get via my website for £2.99. 6 downloads, some paperwork to go with it. You know, you can't go wrong there. So you're ready for the next bit. Energy. Oh, there was a lot of talk, a lot of responses that said I'm low on energy. And energy is body, mind, emotions. The balance usually is creating a lack of energy and a deflation. When you look at energy and body, it's about pains and aches, tiredness, exhaustion, that feeling of, oh God, it's all too much. When it comes to the mind, you suffer from concentration issues. You know, you can't be creative, you can't think of solutions, just not happening. And you feel flat and deflated. When it comes to emotions, there's usually something, you know, people who are not tired are not so keen and good at beating themselves up. People who are tired are really doing that. Feelings of incompetence and low self-esteem are also popping up. And a feeling of feeling uninspired. Why do I do all this? You know. What can we do around here? There's a brilliant exercise that David Nagel, he's a success coach. He works with high achievers, such as multi-million-dollar earners. And he has an approach that I share with my clients all the time. He made changes to his life when he was an unhappy forklift truck driver. He wanted to get out, but he felt stuck. The story is he made 3 minor changes that led to his success journey. And I'm going to share these with you. The 3 changes are: pretend you are so happy with what you're doing. You could not be more over the moon. You smile, you sing, you swing when you are doing it, and you feel the happiness. Now, I do that when I do one of my jobs for my boys. They play rugby, and you can imagine the kilos of mud that come into my house. I don't like doing the washing for that sort of clothes, because first of all you have to rinse it and it stinks and it's like but what I'm doing, I'm singing, I'm swinging, I'm smiling, I'm telling myself I absolutely love doing that job. So that's the first thing that David Nagel says: pretend you're very happy, then do what you're doing to the best of your abilities. So me with my washing, I really make an effort to get all the yuck out before it goes into the machine. And number 3 is do not invite other people in your experience or blame them. So for me, don't moan about my rugby playing boys and all the mud. No, just stick with it. Just leave them out of it. And you can start doing this right now, that exercise. You can pretend you are so happy listening to me. Maybe you're not, but you can still do that. Make the most of it, regardless of what others might say. So really sort of get into this. Okay, my second tip is to meditate. Meditate balances the mind, body, and emotions. I can talk a lot about that, but you have to believe me. So what we just did, that 1-minute meditation, is all you need to do in order to lift your energies. And then, of course, there's a physical thing: stretching, walking, exercising. I mean, this inspires the brain to sort of produce happy hormones, and that energizes you as well. I didn't put it here, but of course, food, water, healthy food, drinking water are all things that are helping you with raising your energy levels. Something that came up as a real challenge is emotions. You know how we can be hit by emotions, in sort of feeling out of control, wanting to cry, wanting to hide. I don't want to talk too much about that here because it is so complicated and there is so much to it. I can help you with that, but I'm just gonna sort of touch on it here. Emotions have to do with beliefs. They have to do with our habitual thinking, because it's sort of so ingrained. If we are really conscious about it, then we might change our mind and with our self-perception. The thoughts that we have around it and that fuel emotions are our ideas of how you should be. An idea of this is how it is, I have no power. Yeah, there's nothing I can do to change it, I'm a victim. Or thinking really negative about yourself, like I'm the bad girl. Now, if you want to work on emotions, just list how you think you should be. So, I should always be on time, I should do this, I should do that, I should act like this. And then consider who actually told you that. Most likely an authority figure from the past. But if you really look at all these different things, is it true? Is it your truth? And very often, lots of these thoughts are not your truth. And if they're not your truth, you can just let them go. My tips when you're hit by an emotion: take a breather, literally take a deep breath, but also walk away. Go to a place where you can be on your own for a bit. Yeah, so take that breather, feel yourself getting calmer, consider the impact, consider the size of what happened there. Was it really worthwhile, that big emotion that you have in that moment? rationalize it, and then let it go. That is for how to deal with that in the moment. If the emotions come back later on, because you can't let go, because they have touched on something really deep, then it's time to work on that. Maybe, engage in some coaching, read a little bit more, do some journaling. But that goes too far for this webinar. So now I'm going to talk about you, the character traits and the behavior that most of you have given back to me. But I already had an idea about that. But it brings us to the 3 P's, because lots of you listening in today are a perfectionist. Most likely a people pleaser. And could it be a peacekeeper as well? So all these character traits are not helping you in your happiness. When you are a perfectionist, it comes usually from low self-esteem. It usually means that you are not confident enough to present something that's less than perfect. Because if it's perfect, you can hide behind that. There's a certainty there. And you need that certainty because you have that ingrained uncertainty. Very often, good is good enough. Being a perfectionist takes a lot of time, takes a lot of aggravation. There's a lot of anxiety involved. People pleasers. How many things do you do for other people, to please other people? But what does it take from you? And that's something that you might not have thought about. Same as with a peacekeeper. How often do you keep your mouth shut, and how often do you not go for something because you think it will unsettle other people? I want you to list at least 3 of your character traits, and then look at them and say, how is this helpful? But even more important, how is this unhelpful? And you might discover that some of the things you thought were really, really good things are actually working against you and really jeopardizing your happiness at work and at home. My tips: please embrace your traits. Don't fight them. You are who you are, but make them work for you. So if you are a perfectionist, make sure you deliver something that's perfect when it matters. And when it doesn't matter, just let go of that. Keep a smile on your face and love yourself, because you are special. In that whole package, it is really a unique proposition. You really add to the world, and you can celebrate it. So love yourself, smile to yourself, be happy with yourself. Okay, you and behavior. So lots of you will behave, well, that's what the feedback said, and that's what I can recognize. Have a sort of, in any interactions, very quickly say, oh, leave it to me, I'll do it. Yeah, if you relate that to character trait. For perfectionists, it's quite a safe option, because you do it, you know it's gonna be done the way it should be doing. It's gonna take you a lot of time though, doing things like this. Another thing that you're good at is you just get on with it. There's no moaning, there's no groaning, there's no contemplation, there's no confrontation. You might as well do it. And again, it's a bit like the leave it to me and I'll do it. At least it gets done. And you think that's a good way of going forward. But of course, in the long term, it's not. Because why would you get on with it if it sends you on the wrong path? It's worthwhile to step out of it, or let other people make the mistakes, or let other people suffer over it instead of you. But basically, your behavior is all about doing. And we are human beings, so we need time to be as well. We need time to process. We need time to de-stress. We need time to be happy. You can't do happy. You need to be happy. You can do a bit of happy if you look at the David Nagel exercise, but that in essence, it's aimed to sort of get to the be happy. What I'd like you to do in this exercise is list all your doings. And then per doing, ask yourself, did I have to do that? Was it me who needed to do it? Could it be something else? Was it something that needed to be done, or could it just not have been done? And then look for alternatives. Could you just have skipped it? Can you deal with it in a different way? Could you walk away? Could you wait till somebody else says, oh, I will do it? It's a very interesting exercise. So my tips for the behavior, instead of diving in it and doing it, be patient and wait. Just see what happens. Is somebody else standing up and offering services? Is somebody else commenting in a way that, maybe you would have liked to but find difficult? Say no. It's a typical one, isn't it? Don't say yes all the time, just say no. And be aware of boundaries. A client of mine this week said she was very proud of her behavior today, because she was helping one of her the people in her team for the whole day to really get the job done really nicely. And so she thought she had done a really good thing. But I said to her, but whose job is it to do that particular thing? She said, well, it's his job. I said, okay, so you've spent 8 hours today helping him to do his job. And she looked a bit sheepish then. I said, look at the price. It has taken you 8 hours of your working week. You can use that time much better, and you could still have supported the member of your team by giving him directions or checking after an hour or doing something for half an hour with him, but not a full day. And the boundaries are about, is it your job? Is it his job? So have a look at that. Oh, okay, we are at the last chapter now. It's skills. Skills are defined by awareness and choices. It's being alert and confident is really important. Recognizing boundaries and communicate about all that are skills that you can learn. So if I give you this exercise, I just want to say, what is a real challenge for you? What would you change if you could? So one of the challenges that people find difficult is confrontation. So what would you like to change about yourself in a confrontation? For instance, you could say, I would like to stand up and be very firm in my request. If that's the case, you start to prepare and then you act on it. So it's with skills, it's not something that you do straight away. It's something, in order to be successful with that, you need to prepare that. My tips for you are, decide on what you want to change. So that's where the awareness comes in. Yeah. Prepare that really, really well and trial it until you master it. So go through the scenario with a good friend. Do it once, do it twice, do it 3 times until you feel really confident. And it will still be a challenge to do it in the situation where you have to do it. But if you are prepared, you can't go too wrong. 44 minutes and we're through the slides. I hope you've learned some things. I hope you realize there are things you can change straight away. I hope I've given you food for thought. And I hope that I've given you some inspiration to stop, to sit with what happened, and to smile about it, not to make it too heavy and too dark. Okay? Now it's time for all. So, after all this, what else can I give to you? There's way more information that I deliver on a weekly basis. There is email with a tip, always sent on a Wednesday, and I'll put you on the list for that. So if you're not happy to receive this, you can just take yourself off very easily. I will not be offended. Another thing that I offer for free is a 5-step strategy for anyone who feels deflated, who hasn't got their passion, their mojo, who feel like, where's my good old self gone? The one that's always, the one that's confident, the one that has fun. So you can just click on there. And then if you are in a confusing situation, if you're not quite sure about things, I can help you to get clarity. And again, it's a freebie. It's called a clarity session. It takes place over the phone or Skype. And you can just simply book by clicking the button. If there's anything else that you would like to discuss with me or that you're curious about, call my mobile number or email me and I will get in touch. I would love to hear what you've picked up from this webinar. I would love to stay in touch and I would love to connect. So I'm here on the other end of a phone or an email, and hopefully that is going to happen in the future. Bye for now.